Time to upload my all Megatron scenes compilation. Yeah, that's fair. Alright, I'll be totally honest, this video wasn't planned. But you know what else wasn't planned? Me. And I think I'm pretty good. This video could be fine. It'll be good. It'll be fine. On August 17th, 2019, TF Nation held a Transformers Animated Season 4 panel, in which Marty Eisenberg revealed the story treatments and incomplete scripts for the planned 3-part Season 4 premiere of Transformers Animated, called The Trial of Megatron. It was an incredible event, complete with audio recordings from the original voice actors reprising their roles, and a massive amount of love for this forgotten gem, seen shining through the dumpster fire that is most of the rest of the franchise. Unfortunately, this event, held in England, did not allow recording of any sort. And while the TFA fans of the internet hope desperately that someone at the convention would do the right thing and just commit a felony by leaking confidential Hasbro property, thus far no footage or audio has hit the web. Fortunately, fans in attendance took notes and compiled a detailed plot summary of the Trial of Megatron Parts 1, 2, and 3. What I will do today is review this information and tell you my exceptionally detailed thoughts on the matter, most likely pouring more care and concern into it than I have with most school assignments that I've turned in the last 3 years. On a newsreel, Optimus Prime leads Megatron, Shockwave, and Lugnut through the streets. The newsbot Uplink presents several soundbite interviews with Optimus Prime and his Autobots. Optimus has the Magnus Hammer, but plans to return it to Ultra Magnus as soon as he gets the chance. Bumblebee is characteristically excited, Ratchet is characteristically cranky, Jazz plays it cool as always. RC, while glad to be back, is disoriented by everything that's happened and all the stellar cycles she's missed. Bulkhead, meanwhile, is overwhelmed by all the attention. They're celebrities, just like they were upon their arrival on Earth. The protoforms, which were stolen by the Decepticons, have all been recovered, along with the Allspark, and entrusted to the Cyber Ninja Corps, led by Diatlas. Diatlas is the new Megatron, which is neat. He appeared in the crowd scenes in InGame Part 2. I don't personally have any feelings about Diatlas, because I haven't watched Transformers Zone, because there's never been an English dub, and I don't necessarily feel like learning Japanese. Not all of the Autobots are so warmly welcomed. Omega Supreme, a living reminder of the Great War, is shunned by Cybertron's populace. Many of them are terrified outright by Sari Sumdak, having never seen an organic being before. Optimus is hailed as being responsible for the victory, and the public wants him to be the next Magnus. When Uplink points this out, Sentinel Prime is quick to downplay his rival's achievements. The feed cuts to Blitzwing, Sunstorm, and Ramjet being held in the new Trypticon prison in Kaon. Their mouths are clamped shut, and they wear stasis cuffs. Minicons attend to them. Uplink asks why the Decepticons are being held in their own ex-capital city. Sentinel states that it breaks their spirits. When Uplink suggests that the starving Decepticons have nothing to lose, all he has to say is, "Bring it on." A memorial is held for Prowl at the Cyber Ninja Dojo, presided by Jazz. RC stares at the protoforms. She no longer has any students of her own, but she might soon. Seeing this, Sari offers to be her student, hoping to find out more about her own Cybertronian origins and the world she finds herself in. Prowl's body is lowered into a forge, whereas turned into a brand new protoform just like the others. One of my biggest issues with Endgame Part 2 is that there's no breathing room. Prowl dies, and no one's given an opportunity to say more than a single word before Megatron fires a blast at Optimus. His death ends up glossed over. The fact that Bumblebee, in particular, doesn't get to say anything is just really disappointing, especially that the series ended on this note. A funeral for Prowl right after Endgame was always kind of my headcanon, and the fact that this is confirmed really relieves me. I appreciate that they would have taken the time to honor his sacrifice and reflect on his life had the show not been cut short. Sentinel arrives, having missed the funeral entirely. He declares that he's too busy being Magnus, and speaks insensitively about Powwow, but is caught on camera by Uplink. He changes tone mid-sentence, praising Prowl. Disgusted, Jazz rips off his Elite Guard stripes. Sentinel turns to Optimus and demands the Magnus Hammer. Optimus agrees that it's time the hammer was returned to its rightful owner. Ultra Magnus, that is, and he leaves. When Optimus finally gives the hammer back to Ultra Magnus, it temporarily revives the comatose leader. Ultra Magnus declares that he was wrong about Optimus Prime's programming. The younger Autobot did have the makings of a hero all along, and hands the hammer back. Optimus Prime doesn't know what to say. So far as he's concerned, he was just doing his job. As he remarks that it would be refreshing to see a Magnus with humility, Ultra Magnus finally dies. I came up with this. I'm so mad. I always imagined that this happened, but I didn't write it down anywhere, so I can't prove it. You guys all think I'm a liar. Anyway, Ultra Magnus has come a long way from saying,
And Prime, don't try to be a hero. It's not in your programming.
It seems clear that he always had a soft spot deep down for Optimus. This isn't really evident in Transform and Rollout Part 1 because the Optimus Ultra Magnus dynamic most likely wasn't fleshed out back then. But in the second and third season, Ultra Magnus seems to have this underlying pride in Optimus, especially in the InGame Part 1 flashbacks. This would be a fantastic way for his character to go out, because his narrative purpose was to ride the line between Optimus and Sentinel, and create tension between them. Alpha Trion is not so easily moved, and declares that the Council will make the final decision as to who will succeed Ultra Magnus. Not if I have anything to do about it, says an overhearing Sentinel. Ratchet prepares for the reopening of McAdam's old oil house. RC doesn't want to go, but neither does Omega Supreme. He doesn't fit in, literally. Sorry, meanwhile, is much too small for the bot-sized furniture. Omega Supreme flies off as the Autobots shriek at Sorry. The rest of Optimus Prime's crew are also at McAdam's. Sentinel is too. He stands at the back with Jetstorm, Jetfire, and some Autotroopers. Bumblebee teases his old classmate Ironhide, despite Bulkhead's best efforts to stop him. Sorry, meanwhile, resorts to using her jetpack to remain at eye level with the larger bots. She can't drink oil. She has enough energon to last her a lifetime. Rattletrap begins to spread rumors that Optimus Prime is to become the next Magnus, and snaps a photo with the Autobots. Sentinel's Autotroopers try to shut him down, but it's no use. Bumblebee toasts to Optimus Magnus. Furious, Sentinel sics the Autotroopers on Bumblebee, but the rest of the Autobots come to his defense, and things quickly escalate into a full-blown bar brawl. All of this is recorded by Uplink, including, embarrassingly, one moment where Optimus comes to Sentinel's rescue. The next day, Sentinel sees the broadcast and smashes the screen in anger. RC is preparing material for Sorry's lessons when Ratchet arrives with a gift, a pair of laser swords. He admits that he was actually trying to make laser pointers, but he got a little carried away.
These old blades, they were a gift from Ratchet. He was trying to make pointers for my lectures, but he got a little carried away.
He says that things at McAdams didn't go the way he'd hoped, and he asks RC on a second date. She agrees, but just as Ratchet suggests that they do something that night, Ironhide arrives, summoning Ratchet to the Project Omega lab. Wheeljack, Perceptor, and Red Alert are already at the lab. Sentinel tasks them and Ratchet to build him a suit of flying armor, dubbing the assignment Project Power Master. He expects results within the decacycle. Out in deep space, aboard Beachcomber pilots an Energon transport ship and bemoans his job. At least he's not on space bridge repair duty. Suddenly the lights go off. Blackout punches his way into the ship from the outside and grabs Beachcomber, draining the life from the Autobot in mere moments. He heads back outside, shifting to vehicle mode, and begins to tow the ship away. Why Beachcomber? Out of all the episodes of the original 1984 series, the Golden Lagoon is like the only one with an actual positive moral and environmental message. I wrote an essay on this episode for my hippie English teacher, Mr. Miller. I'd like my children to learn from Beachcomber more than most other characters. I know that the Beachcomber scene was recorded by Kenny and Burton, and the audio exists somewhere in Hasbro's archives. I'd love it if Hasbro released this someday. And also just recordings of the recording booth, like the video of the actors playing their roles. I'd love to see that. In her classroom, RC lectures Sorry about the life cycle of Cybertronians. After a protoform is molded, it is given life by the Allspark. Under her breath, Sorry remarks that she actually misses Tutorbot. When RC tells her to share her remark with the rest of the class, Sorry snaps back that she is the rest of the class. At that moment, Bumblebee and Bulkhead arrive with BurgerBot hamburgers brought to Earth via the space bridge. Thanks to a subspace tachyon transmitter installed in Sumdac Tower by Bulkhead, Sorry is able to speak to her father. All around Detroit, strange crystalline growths are forming, raw energon. Sorry impresses RC by linking this phenomenon to the Allspark. When Sumdac sees the protoforms, he doesn't recognize them. Apparently, Sorry's was much smaller. Bumblebee promises that they'll find answers, and they go to the Cyber Ninja Dojo, where Jazz, at Optimus Prime's word, lets them in. Sorry doesn't know what to ask the Allspark. Sorry is not one of the protoforms that Lockdown stole from Megatron, that Starscream later used as the template for his clones, and that Megatron used to create the Lugnut Supremes. This explains why her protoform had a different design than these ones, which is something that the TF Wiki had actually considered a continuity error up until this point. I wrote this one. I wrote this sentence. I have a tangent about these protoforms. Has it dawned on any of you that the Starscream clones, Lockdown captures, and 5 Servers of Doom are cloned from the very same protoforms that he stole from the Cyber Ninja Dojo during his first ever job as a bounty hunter? Also, While we're talking about Starscream clones in lockdown-centric episodes written by Andrew Robinson, wouldn't it have been great if Eisenberg/Wyatt/Youngberg had planned the clone saga a little bit better, and we got Thrust and Dirge in A Fistful of Energon rather than these unnamed ones? And I know they're named after Futurama characters in the Allspark Almanac, but I kind of choose to ignore this because the numerical values don't even make sense. Like, tell me, where are clones number 1 through number 3370317? He has like 20 tops. Because as it stands in the episode, these guys are functionally identical to Skywarp and Sunstorm. On the other hand, Greed and Envy, which are the personality traits that Thrust and Dirge are given in the Almanac, are probably too similar to each other. It essentially results in both characters saying, "Oh, I want that," in any given situation. And while the intent is different, and that Greed says, "I wish I had this," and Envy says, "I wish the other person didn't have this," the outward depiction of these traits and emotions would be very similar to each other. So I don't know, what if they switched some of the clones' personalities around and made Thrust and Dirge the same clones deployed in A Fistful of Energon? That'd be cool. What better way to pay respect to Transformers history than by having Dirge die? Okay, I got very off topic. Ultimately, she doesn't have to ask anything. The ghost of Prowl appears, having become one with the Allspark, and tells her that she has to become the key to the future of Cybertron and Earth. The Allspark grants visions to those present. Sari sees a spark merging with a DNA double helix, and Optimus Prime sees a larger version of himself fighting Megatron. Bumblebee sees himself wearing elite guard stripes. Sentinel Prime meets Cliffjumper outside of the Metroplex and asks the commander of Cybertronian intelligence to make him look good. Cliffjumper is skeptical of this request, noting that it falls outside of his job description, but Sentinel persists, asking not just as a leader, but as a friend. Cliffjumper bluntly remarks that he's neither. Rattletrap arrives and says he has a photo of Optimus Prime being friendly with Megatron. It turns out to be the photo of Optimus Prime and Rattletrap at McAdams, with Megatron's head crudely edited in place of Rattletrap's. Sentinel sends Rattletrap off, but the photo's given him an idea of his own. Bulkhead returns to the Energon farms on the moon. The Cybertronian Energon is withering. Earth Energon is 10 times more potent, but because of its organic component, it cannot be grown on Cybertron. Another Autobot, Tractor, sent to the crops. The harvest gets worse every year. Whoever controls the Energon controls the planet. Back on Cybertron, Sentinel, Jetfire, and Jetstorm meet with Bumblebee. Sentinel invites Bumblebee to join the Elite Guard, leading the Autobot to remember his vision, on the condition that he endorses Sentinel as Magnus. Bumblebee is conflicted and requests time to think on the matter. Sentinel gives him 1 solar cycle to make up his mind. What a great use of Bumblebee. Auto Boot Camp retroactively established that Bumblebee's main goal is to one day become an Elite Guard officer. However, no one takes him seriously. Bumblebee wants to have fun, he wants to race, he wants to go on adventures, but every authority figure chastises him for what makes him him. Through his old drill sergeant, though, Bumblebee is finally given an opportunity to live out his dream, and he decides that it's not worth it, because he values his friends more than a career. Bumblebee grows up so much throughout the show, and it's so subtle, like you don't notice it as you watch it, one episode at a time, but if you compare Bumblebee's antics and Transform and Roll Out to his calm, collective, on-the-spot thinking in InGame, it's very different. It's a very stark contrast. As a child watching this show, I actually found Bumblebee obnoxious, and I never liked it when he was on screen, but now I'm an adult, and he's actually one of my favorite characters in animated. I find him really funny. In the beginning, there were no plans to feature Bumblebee in animated at all. This character was Hotshot, and Ratchet was Red Alert. If you look at the production bible of the series, most plot details are very different, but the character dynamics are completely identical. There's about 10 full pages explaining how Optimus, Red Alert, Bulkhead, Hotshot, and Prowl interact with each other, and the work and thought poured into really fleshing out the mix of personalities shows in the finished series. However, Hasbro forced a connection with the 2007 movie and wanted Ratchet and Bumblebee added. So rather than change the wonderful main cast dynamic, they decided to put the names Bumblebee and Ratchet onto Hotshot and Red Alert, which explains why these two versions of the characters were so radically different from any before. But it worked, and these versions of Bumblebee and Ratchet have gone to influence most interpretations of these characters in the last decade, especially Ratchet. Ratchet was never a grumpy old guy before Transformers Animated. He was a very calm, gentle nurse in G1. I personally don't prefer Bumblebee being the energetic teenage hotshot character. To me, Bumblebee should be optimistic and pure, While youthful, he's not a child, he's not a teenager. He's the bot who gives Optimus hope in his darkest moments. To me, that is Bumblebee at his best. It's just a symbol of hope and a beacon of positivity. Not teenage Bumblebee. While I don't like animated Bumblebee, as a character on his own, as a hotshot type character, I think animated Bumblebee is absolutely wonderful. Once Bumblebee is gone, the twins ask Sentinel why he's stooped to bribery. It's war, says Sentinel. Ironhide arrives with an urgent message, but Sentinel doesn't notice. He's too busy cooking up another plan. One which requires an unremarkable Autobot which he can plant as Optimus Prime's bodyguard to get dirt on his rival. Eventually, the twins point out Ironhide, and Sentinel realizes Ironhide would be perfect for the job. We finally receive reason regarding why Ironhide would have joined Team Prime. Sentinel stuck him with them. This is great, because it puts Ironhide on the same level as the rest of the team. It paints him as an underdog, which is something every protagonist of this series is and needs to be. Bulkhead is enjoying the relative quiet of the Energon farm. But not for long. Suddenly, General Obsidian and the strike force of Decepticons attack.
Rather than spending like 30 minutes reading an outline the way an elementary school teacher reads to her students, I think I'll just let you guys read it for yourself. It's on the TF Wiki, it's documented on other places on the internet. Instead, I'll just focus to shifting on my perspective of it, because that's really the point of this video.
Reportedly, Marty Eisenberg says he might have gotten Obsidian and Stryka confused, and this was meant to be Stryka. I'd like to see how Team Prime fares against Decepticons now that they've had extensive combat experience. The slow development of their skills throughout the series is fantastic if you pay attention, but even better is that the characters get the crap beaten out of them regularly. In every other Transformers show, the battle between Autobots and Decepticons is very evenly matched. But in animated, our main cast is consistently underdogs, and that's what makes them so fun to root for. However, this does create a bit of a paradox, because while the characters need to keep evolving, if they become too skilled, they're not underdogs anymore. And I'm curious how the show would have kept this balance, and if the scales would have tipped in one direction or the other as the show went on. It's sad that the possibility of a television revival is slim to none, that no audio has leaked, but at the end of the day, if there's one thing Transformers animated fans know how to do, it's wait, and hope, and cry. Hey, support me on Patreon.